40 meter, så inte lätt.
All the tax carriers, right up. Watch out the torches now and they're dropping anybody. Hey, back. We'll walk. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're here this evening to honour Jerry Sheehan, who has on Friday night won the Irish Light Middleweight Championship of Ireland, and that's the 32 counties of Ireland. Jerry has been a member of the Rylane Boxing Club since it was founded 5 years ago, and Jerry has trained hard and extensively over those years. He was an inspiration to the club, and the fruits of his labours were tapped out in the National Stadium in Dublin on Friday night with a great win in the final. Now, we will have many visitors here tonight and many personalities from the sport, from the boxing world in Cork, and we'll be speaking to them later. But at the moment, we are starting our bonfire and our march to the community hall, where we will be meeting all the personalities, and we'll be talking to Jerry and other members of the club. I would also like to welcome some of them. John Martin, who I see in the crowd, he's the chairman of the Cork County Board, and he has been a great help to us, giving us great advice since the club was founded. We also have with us the Minister for Sport, Donald Creed, who will speak to you later. And beside him we have the President of our club, Father John Cronin. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we'll move onto the community centre, and we have with us two pipers from Mill Street who will play along the road from here to the community centre, which is only about a half a mile away. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for coming here this evening and giving that welcome to Jerry Sheehan, which he so richly deserves. He really has put Rylane on the map. You know, the Cork Examiner gave us great heading on yesterday's paper when they headed with a great Rylane win. So, with that, I wish to thank Jerry for what he have done for the club, and we'll be seeing more of him later tonight, and we'll have a few words with him. Thank you. Huh?
Right, slow now.
Well, Rylane Boxing Club was formed about 5 years ago. It was really initiated by our president, Father Cronin, who, when talking to Dan Lane and myself one evening, asked us, is there anything we could do for the youth of the area? While we had a community hall in the area, very little use was made of it. There was no games as such played. There is no football club or hurling club in the area, while they are associated with Arbullock, and we are the parish of Arbullock, who is noted for its hurling down the years. But yet there was no club in Rylane. There was quite a number of young fellas knocking around, and they weren't involved in with any club, and they weren't playing much games. So Father Cronin, talking to Dan Lane and myself, asked us, was there anything we could do for the youth? Now, at that time, Dan Lane was attending training sessions in the Glen Boxing Club. And being interested in boxing, he said, what about a boxing club? Now, I agreed with this because in my youth, I did a bit of boxing myself. Well, I didn't win any titles or anything like that. I still knew the elementaries of boxing. And I agreed with Dan, and Father Cronin agreed with it as well. So we called a meeting of people in the area which we thought, who we knew would be interested in the youth. And they agreed with what we had in mind. So we called them together and we explained them what we were doing. Now, my reason for starting a boxing club is that I feel boxing is one of the greatest sports that any young fella can take part in. It is the art of self-defense, but more importantly for me, it's the art of self-control. And I think this is what really counts for any young fella, self-control. And he cannot box unless he has self-control. And it's the one thing that is emphasized, and if you like beaten into young fellas, is self-control. Now, he must have self-control to box, but it's an afterlife that self-control really is of benefit to the young. When they grow up into manhood, self-control is the greatest asset they can have, because without self-control, you're in trouble every day of your life. And you know, learning to take your beating is the important thing. You see fellas go into the ring, they get beaten by another opponent, yet when the bout is over, they will put their hands around one another and hug one another. And when they put on their clothes and move out into the hall or any other place, you will see them sitting in the corner chatting away. And the next time they meet, them two fellas will sit down and chat again for quite a long while. Now, this to me is sportsmanship, and this is, to me, is being able to take your beating. Now, as regards taking your beating, in afterlife, you know, people can get hit when they are in boxing at all, because often a remark passed can be often more hurtful than any blow of a glove. And this, you can get this hurtful blow all your life, and to be able to take it, I think, is very important. Now, this is why I felt boxing was good for the youth of the area. Now, we announced off the altar in the local churches that we were starting the club, and we did get a good response right from the word go. But the one thing that we did emphasize from the very word, from the night we started, was discipline within the club. And every young fellow that came inside the door, he was under orders. Once he came inside the door, he got outside it. And we never allowed young fellas to run around the hall or do what they like. They came in, they stripped off, they went out, they did the exercises, they were put through their boxing paces if they wanted a box. We didn't insist that every fellow that came had to box. It was a free choice of his own. He could come in, do the exercises, and if he wanted to box, he could box, and if he didn't want to box, he needn't box. But that was a free choice. Now, I will now introduce you to our President, Father Cronin, and he will say a few words. I'll come back then to Dan Lane, who trained the boxing club, and we'll get his comments. Now, over to Father John Cronin.
Good evening to you. Well, now, I have been given credit for something that is a bit doubtful, in the sense that when I was wondering what could be done for the youth, I made a suggestion hoping that the people who had something to offer in that line, boxing line, would do it. You know, it's very different to say, let you start a boxing club and suggest that something should be done from the youth, and knowing that we had two men who had something to offer, hoping that they would offer it, and they gave it. They offered it. Now, you have had a talk there on the aims of boxing, and one of the things that Michael Cronin said was that he was training the youth to take their beating. But tonight we have celebrating the victory of one man who never took his beating, because he nearly always won. And I think that tonight is a tribute to the dedication of that man, Jerry Sheehan. It's also a tribute to the dedication of the trainers. And this is a boxing club with no messing, as Mike Cronin said. And I think tonight is a victory for dedication, both of the trainers, the supporters, and the boxers. Now, they are also interested in humanitarian efforts, because about 2 years ago they donated £500 to the school, because that was to show that they were interested in the youth from another aspect. They also recently collected just over £600 for famine relief in Ethiopia. And I think that is, they are concerned with the good of the community and the good of the youth, and that's just, since the boxing club started, it moved other people to start an athletic club. So now we have the youth fairly catered for, and they're catered for in a way that doesn't cost them anything except effort. And I said tonight we are celebrating the victory of dedication and effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father John. Now, Dan Lane took charge of the boxing in Rylane. And I will ask Dan now to give us a rundown on what happened when the boxing club was formed. Dan, what are your memories of the time we started 5 years ago?
Well, I suppose, as you said a while ago, at the time I was training with the Glyn Boxing Club, John Martin the trainer, and I came back and I told you that we would get a bit of advice from John. And so we went into John, and we got the advice and the help that we needed to start. So John advised us at the time to take in a few of the lads and see what they were like. So we went in and took in about, I'd say, 7 or 8 of them the first night, and they were after about 6 weeks training at the time. And John was looking for, at that night, John was looking for a welterweight to box Bridgman from the Glyn in Knocknaheeny tournament. So we had a welterweight, Donald, in here, and we took in Donald, and for the fight that day, we were new, and I can remember well, like, that we had no single at the time with Rylane down it, and people asked us now where we're from. We said Rylane, and they said, where was Rylane? So someone didn't know, like, and we told them where. We told them we knew club starting, so they gave us great support that day. We started off anyway, and Donald was close in the second round, and Donald came out tops in the third round, and we won that day, came back home, and the lads saw we were after winning, the rest of the lads saw we were after winning, and from there on, they knew that we could do it, like, and I think up to now, we're after competing up to 250 fights. We're after coming out, I suppose, maybe 60% winners, and just from there it went, like. And as far as championships are concerned, then we the first man we entered the championship was Sheehan here alongside me, and that was for the counties. Jory won the counties. We entered for the Munsters. Jory won the Munsters, and we entered for the Nationals. Jory was beaten in the Nationals by Hugh Doherty of Buncrana, the eventual winner. So we came back again. The next man we entered in the championships was Christy Regan at light heavy. He won the light heavies. He won the county light heavies. We entered him for the Munsters, and he was beaten in the final of the Munsters majority decision. So the next man for championships was his brother Christy, Shawnee. We entered Shawnee this year. Shawnee won the counties and was enabled to, he was away at the time of the Munsters, so he wasn't available. So that's about the championships.
Yeah. Then entered Jory. He entered Jory then for...
We entered Jory then for...
the Nationals.
For the Nationals. And we, as far as Jory is concerned here alongside me, we started training, I suppose, about 2.5 months ago, 3 months ago. And for the last 10 weeks, we're training 5 nights a week. Jory is training very, very hard. And I'd say what put Jory training so hard was Albie Murphy, his trainer, brought out Kieran, the trainer of Kieran Joyce, brought out Kieran Joyce here to the hall, and on a few occasions, and the lads saw the way Kieran had to train. From there, I think one man that really took his advice was Jory Sheehan, and he could see that he wasn't going to make it unless he put in the same effort that Kieran was after putting into it. So we are very thankful to him, and the next thing, I suppose, Jory spared Kieran with the last 4 or 5 weeks, and that experience really helped him. And I was after forgetting myself even tonight, until Jory told me again that the last thing I told him aside in the corner before the fight was, I said, look, you stood up to Kieran, you sparred with Kieran, I said, and you know the punches Kieran have. And I said, you took him, and I said, look, your man over in the corner, I said, he'll give him nothing like that. And Jory turned around and went into him, and as far as I'm concerned anyway, he won it even on points, like, because your man was in trouble. He had him caught with a hook, a left hook into the stomach. And I'll say another thing about the championships in Dublin. When we arrived up that morning, Jory was 3 pounds overweight. We thought we were in trouble. We had an hour to go before, we had 1 hour to go before the final weigh-in. He had to put on his sweatsuit, put on jumpers on over it, and there was an hour and a half, he weighed in 20 minutes to go, and he was still a pound overweight. And I didn't know that an ounce overweight would stop us. So what we had to put on the gloves in, go into a small room, and we hammered it out there for 20 minutes. Came back out again, and there was 5 minutes to go. And Jory weighed in again, and he was 3/4 of a pound underweight. So the next thing was, we came back after the weigh-in, back to where we were staying, and Albie Murphy had sent up his life fly, Paul Buttermore, and he was staying with us in the digs. And I'd say this minute like that Paul put the spirits up in the camp, and we all kept each other going in for those 3 days, and we are very thankful to Paul as well, which will be speaking in a minute, and I'll hand you back now to Michael again and take a small bit of a breather.
Thanks, Dan. Dan, you know, is very modest about the whole thing, because Dan have put hours, nights, weeks of effort into the boxing. He has dedicated himself solely to the boxing, and the amount of time he has given to it, it would be very hard to estimate it over the years what Dan has given to it. But as he said himself, 'twas worth it all now to come up with an Irish championship. You know, an Irish championship in Rylane, in a small place like Rylane, it's a big achievement as far as Rylane is concerned. I know some of the city clubs would think not they're winning an Irish championship, but in a country place like Rylane, where there wasn't a tradition of boxing, this was the first boxing club that was ever in Rylane, and it is an achievement as far as we are concerned. Now, Jory made that achievement possible because he was the epitome of dedication down the years since he joined the club. His dedication and his commitment was something that every other one took heart from. All the other young fellas who came in, they looked up to Jory. Jory was the man who put us on the road. He won the county, he won the Munsters, he had to go at the Nationals 2 years ago. So every other fella in the club looked up to Jory. And for me, it was a great relief when Jory kind of took over the training, because I'm getting a bit long in the tooth now for hopping and jumping and skipping. And as I was doing in the start, I seemed to be able to do it the first few years we started, but of late I'm not able to do it, I might well admit. So Jory took over the training, and the young fellas thought I was tougher than them when we started off, but Jory was still tougher because he was able to keep going with them, and he kept the same control and is keeping the same control that I kept when we started. Now, Jory, over to you. You're the man that made it all possible.
Well, I don't really know what to say, only that I'd like to thank Dan and Mick. They put a lot of time into giving me a hand when I was training. There was nights that I had to go training on my own, and I just give Dan a ring, and he was willing at all times to come out with me and watch me training and push me on all the time. I used to go into Sunnyside training and on my own, and Albie and Kieran were willing to give me a hand any time. And I was talking to John Martin in the the nationals. John did the corner with us. He gave us a great hand. And John said to me that I could go training in his club if I wanted to, which is another great asset. I don't really know what to say other than that. I think Dan and Mick have said everything for me, only that I was delighted to be able to receive this cup and hope I can, and the medal, and I just hope that from now on I can achieve better things, and I'll have to train harder, that's right, for sure. And so I'll give it back to Mick altogether.
Thanks, Jerry. Jerry said he isn't saying much, but he has it all said with the gloves, with his hands over the past week. Now, we have with us as well here tonight, we have the Minister for Sport, Donald Creed. And Donald has been good to us at all stages down the years. Any time we asked him to our tournaments or any other function, he willingly came. So I'll hand over to Donald now. He will say a few words to you.
I think it's some disadvantage to be left until last because almost everything is said. But the one thing I would like to say very, very loudly and very clearly indeed is that I'm very pleased to share with Rylane here tonight this celebration, this very joyous occasion in celebrating what I would regard as a wonderful victory. Now, I have never been actively involved in the ring, so to speak, but I have been for many years now a very enthusiastic supporter and spectator of boxing. And I think what is already said by Michael Cronin and Father Cronin and others, that it is a very manly sport and it is a wonderful sport. I was listening to the history of the Rylane Boxing Club, and one of the things that occurred to me was the contribution that many people make, like the officers and members of the club, to provide facilities for our young people. I think it's wonderful, and I think we're all very much indebted to those people. Now, one of the things that always occurred to me about boxing is the wonderful companionship that exists, and I think it's indicated quite clearly here tonight by the representatives of the city clubs who come out here to share this occasion with Rylane, because I think it's very commendable indeed that here you have a relatively new club, you have long established clubs in the city, and to come and share this very important occasion with Rylane, I think indeed it deserves the highest thanks and the highest praise. And I would like to say here, as far as I'm concerned, to place on record as Minister for Sport my appreciation of that kind of companionship. I would like indeed to very, very warmly congratulate Jerry Sheehan on his magnificent victory. And I think it's not alone the winning of a national championship here, which is in any assessment is a wonderful achievement. But I think it's the example that's set by Jerry to the younger people here to encourage them to become more actively involved. To the Rylane Club, I would like equally so to congratulate them. They say that good sportsmen are good Christians. It is only a few weeks ago since I had the honour of seeing Jerry Sheehan starting the race to Cork to raise funds for a very deserving cause, and the Rylane Boxing Club. And I think it is true to say again and again and again that the importance of sport, the importance of participation by our young people is very, very much underestimated. Now, one of the things which I'd like to say here, and say it particularly on an occasion when we're celebrating a victory of this sort. I had the honour of attending the Olympic Games in Los Angeles this year, and every fight I watched it. Many of the other events I was unable to watch because I was involved in other meetings and functions out there. When I was interviewed when I came back home by some who thought we did very badly in the Olympic Games, and whilst I'm not going to go through all the fights, but just to mention just a few, that Kieran Joyce was defeated by somebody who won a silver medal on a split decision. Phil Sutcliffe was beaten by the one who won gold on a split decision. Paul Fitzgerald went within a bout of winning a medal. And it brought home forcibly to me the lack of facilities and the lack of support for sporting organisations in this country. On that occasion I said that we had the potential to compete with any nation in the world, given a fair chance. And when you find that people like Rylane here, a new club, will produce somebody like Jerry Sheehan, I think that my statement on the subsequent to the to the Olympic Games is vindicated. That if we can get more support, and I'm referring particularly to the state, to the contribution, that we must have a greater contribution towards the development of sport and the provision of facilities generally for our young people. Now we have about, I think, 75 sporting organisations in the country. One would never think that there are about 75. We grant aid about 65 and there are about 10 more knocking at the door that we haven't reached yet. It is one of the, as I said to Jerry already tonight, that I have been invited to many functions, sporting functions. I have never refused one in relation to boxing, because I think it epitomises everything that's manly, that's courageous, it's skill, and it is a wonderful training for young people. So I would again finally say to Jerry, I hope that you'll have many more successes, and that you will wear the green singlet with distinction. And certainly you have brought honour to Rylane, you have brought honour to yourself and to your family, and I look forward to seeing you having many more successes again.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Donald. Now, I would like Jerry's father and mother to come in at this stage, because without Jerry's father and mother, we'd have no Jerry. That goes without saying. Congratulations to you, and bring up a son like Jerry.
Thank you very much.
Now, I'm sure you're very proud of Jerry now at this stage.
Well, it's very hard to say how proud I am of him, because I never thought that I'd ever see the day that I'd have an All-Ireland medal in the house, and as the Minister said, a potential Irish boxer. I'm just glad he hasn't been boxing me too long.
You'd have to do a bit more training.
Yes, he's been trying on a few occasions to get me out running with him, but I'm afraid my running days are over. But proud, it's, as I say, it's very hard to say how proud I am of him.
Mrs. Sheehan, you must be very proud of Jerry now. How did he react up at home while he was training, and what did he feel like when he came back?
Oh, he was very excited, my Claret, last night, and so was Des.
Yeah.
But I am very proud of him.
And so well you can. Yeah.
Very proud of him.
Right. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Sheehan. A few more father and mother like you, and we'd have a great club. Now, I would like you to meet Paul Buttimer, who was the other Corkman who won an All-Ireland medal. Paul, life of the party while you were up there. Yeah?
No, it was Dan.
It was Dan? Which of you did the most development?
Jerry.
Jerry.
Quite all the way.
You worked quite all the way. That isn't what I heard then. Congratulations on you winning the flyweight, the light fly. And it was a great achievement, and we all knew before you went up that you were going to give it a fair run. You were earmarked all along. What did you think of Jerry's fight?
Well, the first fight that he had anyway, it was very unlucky for him, and that he got a cut eye, you know. But I knew Jerry would do well in the championships. And just before he did go into the ring, I came up to him and I asked him to put up a good fight. And he was all raring to go, and there was no stopping him, he said. and he was going to win them titles for the Rylane club.
That was the spirit, yeah, and that's the spirit that wins titles.
Yeah.
Paul, congratulations. You have been a great supporter all the time, and I thank you for coming out here tonight, displaying your medals and your trophies. Thanks, Paul, for coming. Now I'd like to introduce you now to John Martin, trainer of the Glen Boxing Club, an All-Ireland champion himself, and at present chairman of the county board. John has been a great help to the Rylane Club since it was founded, because when we wanted advice and support, we just go to John and it automatically comes. And it is very heartening for us here in Rylane to think that John and all the other people from Cork who we speak to later on would come out here to us tonight in our moment of joy, I suppose, if you like, our moment of history making, and be associated with a club like Rylane. John?
Right. Well, Mick, first of all, my visit here tonight is twofold. Number one, I'm here as chairman of the Cork County Board, but second and not least, I'm here on my own behalf because, like I said earlier in the night, it always gives me great pleasure when I see any Cork club who have never won a national title winning a title for the first time. It is a great feeling for that club, and it also kind of more or less assures success for the future, because I have no doubt that Jerry's win in these Irish championships will create great interest among the youth now in the area, and I have no doubt that you will find young fellas knocking on your door now to join the boxing club, and again nothing but good can only come from same. But to get back to Jerry's winning the light middleweight Irish junior title, it's a great achievement because it's one of the few sports in Ireland, unfortunately, that comprises the whole 32 counties of Ireland. From the length and breadth of Ireland, you have boxers from all quarters. And there was 11 light middleweights altogether weighed in. And Jerry came out on top of the pile. His name is forever engraved in the history of Irish boxing now, because it's in the record books now as Irish junior light middleweight champion for 1984-85, and he has put Rylane on the map, and long may it be. I can go back 30 years ago when I boxed in an open air tournament here myself in Rylane, and I always had great affection for Rylane thereafter that, because of their hospitality at that time and their great interest in boxing at that time, which was 30 years ago. And it's great to see them having another champion here tonight. Right, Mick?
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. And I remember well, I was one of the organisers in that tournament 30 years ago, and I remember you winning that, and you got a very fine cup, which incidentally, you know, wasn't bought specially for the occasion. It was bought for some other tournament some years prior to that, which was never finished. And we had nothing to do with it, so we put it up for the best boxer of the day, which went to John Martin. Now, we also have Brian Joyce over here, and Paul Buttimer's father. What's your first name? John. John Buttimer and Brian Joyce. Now, you're associated with boxing for quite a while, and you're like John Sheehan now, your fathers are champions. You have a long association with the sport. What do you feel at this stage about boxing?
I think boxing is a great asset to any young fella today. And most of all, I give credit to Jerry's parents for keeping him at the boxing. The credit should go to his parents. They keep him involved in boxing, his father and mother especially. And I'd like to congratulate Jerry Sheehan on his achievement in the National and Junior Championships. And also to Paul Buttimer, to his father and mother. That's involved in keeping the young fella in boxing. Like. And I'd like to say this, I'd like to thank Rylane Boxing Club for their achievement, like. and to especially the trainer, Dan Lane.
Thanks, Brian. John, what am I?
Well, my first memories of Paul boxing actually was that he's the second eldest of 3 sons I have, and he didn't have a medal for any sport whatsoever, and the other 2 lads had medals and trophies and cups all over the house. So he started boxing with the Toka Boxing Club, and the first time I saw him in the ring I said, "Holy Father, what's that?" He was like a nymph running around the ring. He seemed to have the feet for boxing. But he still didn't win a trophy for about 4 or 5 contests, and it was my sister-in-law actually gave him a medal out of our own collection of basketball medals and said, "There's a medal for you. I hope you'll have many more." Well, to date he has 4 Irish titles under his belt, and we're very grateful to Jimmy Murphy for the first 3 he has, and then he joined Sunnyside, and he got an awful lot of experience from watching Kieran Joyce, Gordon and Barry Joyce, and took a lot of pride in watching those young lads boxing, and they made him put in the training, and they worked very hard with him right up to this particular title, and we're very grateful to the Joyces, Mr. and Mrs. Joyce, for following him around the country, and to Albie Murphy, who's trained him vigorously and kept him at it. And I really am very grateful for all the help that everyone gave Paul. But what I would like to say is that Jerry and Paul, over the past 4 days in Dublin, they were both the life of the party, because no one could get to bed with them. 3 o'clock in the morning they were boxing inside in the rooms, and the toilet was just outside our door, and Holy Father, they were up and down. I don't know what they were doing, but they were up and down every couple of seconds anyway. But Jerry was in a very tough division, and he was meeting very, very strong lads, and he gave it a go and has come out a winner, and everyone in Rylane should be very, very proud of him, because he done Rylane and himself the world of good, and please God he'll wear an Irish singlet in the very, very near future. Good luck, Jerry.
Thanks, John. One other man I want to speak to now, Mort. Oh, here a minute. You know, the club doesn't consist of just a few. It a number of very dedicated followers and helpers. Mort Buckley, will be known nearly through all the area which this program will go, is native of Clondrahood and has done a lot of work in Clondrahood over the years. And success is nothing new to Mort. His organising ability goes beyond saying, because he's well known for his organising ability, and his help in the club, in the organisation of the club and the organisation of all the functions that we took part in, was of immense benefit. Mort, thanks for all you have done for us.
I'm afraid, somehow, Mick, you're flattering me a little bit. I can say, without fear of contradiction, as far as this club is concerned, I am very peripheral indeed. You know, on an occasion like this, when we have glory, well, all the boys and girls, they all come out of the woodwork, you see. But I tell you, when it comes down to the hard work, Dan Lane and Mick Cronin, there's no one else to be seen. We only turn up very few times indeed. We might give a hand at the tournaments and things like that, but we are glad to be here tonight, though. I can tell you that. Very glad indeed. And I can't get words sufficient to congratulate Johnny Sheehan. Excuse me. He's the man we have been waiting for. I think this is really where it all comes in at. From here on in, I expect upward and onward. So I congratulate Jerry, and I hope that the other boys will follow in his footsteps. We have a few handy lads around to surprise you, so we're hoping for better things in the future. But I'm afraid I'm not doing a whole pile, apart from what Mick Cronin says. So don't any of you back there around that'll be seeing this program think I'm working 6 days a week at this. I'm not. God bless you all, lads. I hope you mean.
Thanks, Mort.
Give him a big hand, folks. Fantastic.